Welcome back. Thank you for staying with Morning Express. We're just having a conversation to do with climate action and the steps that we need to take in order to combat this evil we're facing, not just as a country, but as a globe as well. And perhaps plugging into the COP26 conversation, the Council of Governors and the devolved units have set this year's theme to do with climate action. Daniel Wanjuki joins me in studio. He's the CEO of EcoSave Africa and one of the contributors during the Devolution Conference. And just taking a look at your contributions yesterday, you talked about wastewater management impact and the issues waste management addressed during COP26. Before we get to that, when it comes to financing climate action at an international level, we've seen the superpowers not really willing to finance some of the issues third world countries are facing due to the effects of the carbon emissions on that side. When we get closer home and the president says raise 6.2 trillion within 10 years, and locally we are supposed to mobilize, is it 13%?
8 billion.
Is it tenable? Is it a well thought out dream rather? Have we broken down the house, not the whys, not less political statements, but more of, investing intentionally in some of the issues? Yeah.
Thank you. Surprisingly, the climate change adaptation is not about money. However, we talk about money because most of our countries depended on getting money from the European, the developed world as a way of remedying the damage they had done to the environment, and yet we are the ones suffering from those effects. Okay. So we are hoping that developed countries will give about $100 billion to be shared among the African countries or countries that are hard hit by the climate change. However, that money did not come. And the COP26, one of the failures was that there was no check written out to help countries adapt to climate change. Yeah. However, in my view, climate change adaptation will not be about money being transferred from the north to the south. It is about community involvement. That's why, and this was resonating very well even at the Devolution Conference, that nature-based solutions are going to be the best way to mitigate climate change. And this actually small issues like tree planting. We don't require heavy funding for tree planting, but we only need to have an enabling environment where tracts of land that are lying there may be planted with trees. Kenya Forest Service should not concentrate on government-funded forest. Yeah. Instead, we should take the climate change adaptation measures to planting trees everywhere we can get. Nairobi County has done a lot of clearing of trees the last 2 years because of infrastructure project, but we have not been sure where else we can plant those trees. And so those are some of the salient activities, not very pompous, not consuming a lot of money, but that actually will have an impact. The other aspect is how we manage our industries. We still have industries spewing waste to the rivers, and we are saying that Nairobi River is not available for use by anybody because of the quality of water in those rivers. So changing those things may not require funding from outside. Yeah. These companies already have budgets for environmental management. Others, under what we call the polluter pays principle, they would just sort out the mess they have had on the environment. Other companies that use dirty energy, like coal and petroleum oil, could quickly revert or change to clean energy, what we are calling green energy. That is solar heating, solar electricity, wind power, without too much funding, because we still see some windmills that were supposed to go to Abadeas, still lying somewhere in Ruai, meaning that, okay, our intentions are good, but on the practical aspect of it being done on the ground, we are stopped by small issues like litigation. Why would a project that was so well designed in Abadeas for wind energy be stopped just because there were activists saying that windmills cause cancer, which is not, is neither scientific world would have been involved in this, and they would have expressed their opinion, and they allow that project to proceed because it is a green energy
So
project.
on paper, it seems okay with the county sort of aligning with climate action and all that, but are we engaging the people who know the technical know-how when it comes to climate? Talk of lecturers and all that. So we're not just speaking of, you know, political address or statements, Kenya is serious about climate action, but we're addressing the how. How do we show we're serious about climate action? Yeah.
Having been attended yesterday's session at the Devolution Conference, and also having seen the list of representatives from Kenya to Glasgow, COP26, I don't think the scientific world has been involved well enough in determining the measures we should adopt for climate change adaptation. And this, I'm not even talking about professors. I'm talking about Wanjiko in Machakos, Makueni, who, for the last 10 years, has seen that maize is no longer doing well in that area, and they are now doing baazi, or pigeon peas. We have not involved the local, that old lady who has done farming for the last 60 years. And she has changed from when there was enough rain to now when there's no rain, and she's still surviving. That knowledge is not being, I didn't see it at the Devolution Conference. I didn't see that feedback or an attempt to call in ideas from the grassroots on how to adapt to the climate change. We're talking about electric bikes. We are talking about electric bicycles and buses and stuff. But those things that we can do without even spending money, we're not doing it.
So perhaps we need to be more intentional about that particular front. As we finalize, let's talk about methane gas production, because during the presentation by President Uhuru Kenyatta in COP, he happened to mention it, and this is an area EcoSave Africa deals with. So how exactly does wastewater management, talk of methane gas production, how does this contribute to the global conversation in terms of climate action?
Thank you for that question. It's been my talking point every other time. I've never missed to mention methane gas.
True.
And the last 10 years or so, I've done a lot of research on how to remove methane gas formation in waste management. We even came up with a product that can be used for stopping methane gas generation from waste management. That is in septic tanks, in pit latrines, in slaughterhouses, in piggeries. Those are all over the world are the sources of human-based, or we call it anthropogenic sources of methane gas. And up to now, there's no other way of stopping your dump site or your septic tank from emitting methane gas other than either use a lot of mechanization, which requires electricity, or use a biological product like what we sell as EcoSave Africa. We call it authoritative waste digester. It's a bacteria that we can farm anywhere in the world, we can do it. We can use it for stopping methane emission from pit latrines and all other sources of organic waste management, where methane gas is produced. Our breweries, our tanneries, all contribute to methane gas emissions, and in the end, that methane gas is not captured by any natural process, and instead it goes and forms what we call the greenhouse gas effect in that stratosphere, and this is the one that's causing global warming. Simply put, it's like a glass ceiling that when light comes through during the day, at night it does not dissipate to go back to the atmosphere, and instead it warms the environment. That's why the last 6 months, clouds form every day. They are clouds, but they don't dissipate clean, because the warmth that is spraying around there, a few kilometers, about 25 kilometers where the clouds form, are not there. The warmth is so high that the clouds start to dissipate instead of precipitate.
So methane gas production, we need to look at that even as we are plugging into the greenhouse emissions and reducing them as well. So thanks for your tidbits on how we can contribute in terms of reducing global warming and some of the recommendations you've given, not just here, but to leaders who are at the Devolution Conference, and of course contributing to Kenya's point of view when they were contributing during the COP26 summit in Glasgow, Scotland. It's a good conversation. We hope they'll be more intentional, right?
Indeed.
Okay,
Indeed.
asante sana. CEO of EcoSave Africa, Daniel Wanjuki, whose company is doing good job in terms of water waste management. You can take a look at them even as you plug in back at home into the ongoing discussion in Makueni Water Town, all to do with climate action. We'll definitely keep you updated about the day 2, even as Chief Justice Martha Koome is set to speak to the delegates who are there at the DevCon conference. Let's shift focus right now.